Your boys are back, baby. It's the Money Stop Mafia. This is your most important NASCAR betting stop of the day, coming off the best weekend in motorsports. He's Cole Cusumano. Follow him on Twitter. You see the handle right down there. I'm Steven Cusumano. Follow me on Twitter. You see the handle right there. Money Stop Mafia. We had another masterclass coming off of what was an incredible Coke 600. Cole, Ross Chastain chasing down William Byron. This was an incredible race. This is what we were missing, felt like, the entire season. I think out of the whole first third of the NASCAR season, this had to have been one of the best races we had seen, with back and forth between William Byron, who dominated, but even though he dominated, there was so much back and forth with the lead changes and strategy and Ross Chastain chasing him down. And oh, by the way, we go to Ross's best track arguably now in Nashville. So there's a lot to be said, but I think that takeaways from the most excellent week in motorsports have to be had right now. My main takeaway is that of the three races, the Coke 600 stole the show, in my opinion.
That is, like, without a question, the correct answer. Monaco was just unwatchable. Indy 500, whatever. It's the most prestigious event in motorsports, but the racing did not do it for me. A lot of attrition, I'll give them that, but the 600, just start to finish, was absolutely incredible. That is a testament to NASCAR and Prime as well, their debut race with Prime. They did an excellent job marketing this thing. I thought all the commentators in the booth, Adam Alexander, Steve Letarte, Dale Jr., were phenomenal. All the pit reporters, pre and post race, just off the charts, incredible. And the camera angles, they were like in 4K. They had like a million different camera angles, crystal clear. Sound quality was amazing. It was just an incredible event. And yeah, as far as the on-track stuff, I was engaged the entire time. Although William Byron swept all three stages, towards the end, it was anybody's game. You had him and Denny Hamlin going back and forth. Carson Hocevar, your gut call, made a really awesome surge to the front early in this race, starting from the rear, and had a great shot to win this thing before he blew up. And then, yeah, Ross Chastain rallied from the rear, literally dead last to win this thing. Just an unbelievable display. My favorite race of the season by far, and it was that tenfold once again in 2025. So feeling great going into Nashville. We didn't have our best showing, I'll admit, outside of William Byron dominating this thing. But I think we all won this past Sunday with this 600.
Yeah, I used masterclass there a little bit too loosely, but I mean, just thinking about some of the performances that we did predict, like you said, Carson Hocevar is a gut call, and William Byron. William Byron was the guy. I said masterclass because you and I were consensus picking him to win. Like, we knew he was going to go out there, have the best car, have the best chance to win, and he almost had a maximum points day. And I was telling you at the end of the episode last week how I was planning on watching this race over the course of like a 5.5, 6 hour bus ride. So I was engaged the entire time, driving on this bus from New Hampshire back to Jersey. And the race didn't feel like it was 600 miles because it was that entertaining. It didn't feel like it dragged. Like, I feel like a lot of times the Coke 600, you get to those middle stages, or, especially again, with someone dominating like Willie B did, you expect it to kind of drag. And I don't feel it had that literally at any point. And I'm really excited at just the on-track product. Like you said last week, it's one of the best products we've seen at any track in this next-gen car, especially right now. And so it was a great performance where we saw William Byron and Chase Briscoe, two of our picks, finished second and third. Chase Elliott, one of our picks, finished in sixth. We had Josh Berry, Kyle Busch, Austin Dillon as a few of our sleepers and value picks that finished inside the top 20. So like you said, not our best showing, I guess, top to bottom, but let's call it like it is. Like, we were very confident in William Byron, and that's why it was a top-heavy showing. But when you and I both agree like that, it's not like a one-size-fits-all. It's not like we're going to be judged on the same scale every episode. I think that taking into the account that a lot of the money was on William Byron this week, I think that's what made it such a successful week, and not quite as successful as it could have been, but that's because of Ross Chastain. So let's turn the page here and go to Nashville, Cole, as we take it to the bank. Our pre-qualifying odds do not see Ross Chastain in the top 5 because this race at Charlotte was kind of an anomaly. So our favorite to win the race is Kyle Larson at plus 550, who was one of our big disappointments last week in both races he ran, but still was cool that he got to run the car in both races nonetheless. Tied for the second lowest odds, you got Denny Hamlin, Christopher Bell at plus 600. William Byron is plus 700. Ryan Blaney is plus 800. And we, of course, will find out the starting lineup 5:40 Eastern time on Saturday. So, Cole, take it away. Favorites this week going into Nashville.
Yeah, let's kick things off here with Kyle Larson. I made a bold statement last week saying if you're not betting on Kyle Larson, you are losing money. And hopefully you didn't take that because honestly, he was a big disappointment at both Indy and Charlotte. He had some trouble in the beginning of the first stage, I believe, or second stage at Charlotte, where he had a toe link that was bent. He made an amicable rally through the field to the top 15, then he crashed once again, and his day was over. But that all to be said, there have been only 3 times prior to that this season where Kyle Larson finished 20th or worse this season, and all 3 times, guess where he finished? Guess. Go ahead.
Top fifth. I don't know.
He has scored a podium finish any time that he has scored. He finished 20th or worse the prior week. So
Okay.
the exact
I was
results are
close.
third, and a win. So we're gonna go back to Kyle
It's
Larson,
insane.
odds-on favorite for a reason. He won the inaugural race at Nashville. He is also the only driver to finish top 10 in all 4 starts with the lowest finish of 8th and a 4.5 average finish in those 4 starts. All of his laps led, though, have come in that one race that he did win, so there is that going against him if you wanted to maybe consider him for daily fantasy. But I think you don't see Kyle Larson dejected and defeated very much, and I think just the weight of the double, the strenuous schedule between traveling back and forth between Indy and Charlotte and being in Indy for the whole month, basically, I think took its toll on him. I think having that void of John Edwards not being there definitely impacted him as well. So this is going to be a big rebound race for Kyle Larson. I feel very confidently that he will have another top 5 showing, as we've seen him do 3 times again previously this season. But I think another underrated driver that we're seeing once again come to the forefront in 2025 is Christopher Bell. Christopher Bell has quietly compiled 3 straight top 10s after finishing 8th at Charlotte, and he is now tied with Kyle Larson for the most top 10s in the series with 9. As far as Nashville is concerned, he's finished top 10 in 3 of his 4 starts, and the one outlier, he led a race high 131 laps before crashing in the final stage, and that came in his most recent start at Nashville. So I think Christopher Bell, you're looking for guys maybe that aren't named Kyle Larson or Denny Hamlin or maybe even William Byron. Christopher Bell is a great option to go with for, whether it be a top 5 or top 3 prop or even a race winner prop.
For sure. I'm going to go with the names that you just, raised there as the low-hanging fruit. And obviously all of these are there in the top 5 in odds, but I got to start with William Byron, plus 700. Just the most consistent driver in the sport. And you could see the dejection on his face. Like he really wanted that one. How often do you get a car that good, lead 248 laps or whatever it is, and not win the race? It's going to suck coming out there and trying to rebound after, you finish second, but it really feels like you're the first loser. But that snapped a 2-race skid that William Byron was in. That was really his only cold stretch of the entire season. But looking at his career at Nashville, best finish of 3rd, 2 total top 10s at Nashville. He's only led 5 laps, but I'm not taking a whole lot of stock into that because he's had obviously the lap leading speed this year. And he's had 5, he said, I mentioned the best finish of 3rd and 2 top 10s. Outside of that, he's had finishes of 19th or worse in the other 2 starts. So you wrap all that up, put a bow on it, you have a 15.8 average finish, which is a little bit fluky because you're talking about some very high-end results and some very low-end results. So for William Byron, I'm just taking a lot of stock into the fact he had the best car by far last week. 9.5 average finish this year is the best in the sport. He leads the point standings. He's going to come out, I think, in a rage after losing that race last week. And there's no bad week to pick William Byron, but I think this is certainly a good week to pick William Byron. But as he kind of owned those first 3 stages, Denny Hamlin probably had the second best car the entire race, and he's plus 600 for the win this week. Wound up finishing in 3rd. It looked like it was going to be for sure one of those 2 drivers, really up until like the last 50 laps of the thing. But well, for Denny Hamlin, best finish of 3rd as well at Nashville with a couple of top 10s, 70 or more laps led in his last 3 starts at this track, including a pair of poles and a 10.5 average finish. So he's had one of the better, I guess, resumes at Nashville since they've started going there in the Cup Series. Now, I will say, as far as him starting on the pole, I'm definitely going to be looking at that in terms of, if he does start on the front row or in the top five, maybe you don't pick him for daily fantasy. But if there's other drivers, he's able to muscle out for a lot of laps led for DFS. I look at Denny Hamlin as somebody that can certainly do that. He's clearly proven he can win this year, still has race winning speed at this point in the season. So this is a guy that, again, looked really good last week. William Byron, the same thing. I think that they're great picks every week, but Nashville, there's a reason why they're top 5 in odds per Vegas. I'm taking William Byron. I'm taking Denny Hamlin. You're going with Christopher Bell and Kyle Larson out of the favorites category. What do we got for sleepers?
For sleepers, it's going to be a fun one here because obviously last week we had a surprise winner, I guess you could say, in Ross Chastain. And now we're going to a track where I automatically always think of Ross Chastain when we go here in Nashville. Ross Chastain plus 1,200 for the race win. That is an incredible value. Is this season redeemed? Is this a Trackhouse turnaround? Well, why don't you look at his stats through the entire season? Ross Chastain has a win and a runner-up over his last 3 starts. He now has 7 top 10s this season and a 12.9 average finish, which is really, really good if you think about it. I mean, you talk about the struggles this team has had on occasion, the lack of speed compared to years past. Those really are not bad numbers. And I think coming off a win, going into one of his best tracks, he should have a really good shot at repeating this weekend. And on those Nashville numbers, he won here back in 2023. He has top 5s in 3 of 4 starts, and he wrecked in his most recent start after leading 45 laps and starting 20th. So he had also a lot of speed before getting caught up in trouble last year and wrecking. I think Ross Chastain all around is an incredible value this weekend. That's kind of just stating the obvious there. But for my other sleeper, I want to kind of deviate from the stats. And one thing I like about going to tracks like Nashville with not as much stats and history to go based off of is that you can kind of go based off of your intuition and kind of your gut. And as we saw last week, sometimes the numbers don't usually point you towards what's going to bring you money. And that we saw that with your Carson Hocevar gut call for a sleeper, and also in making a daily fantasy lineup last week that of drivers that were not on our outline. I mentioned Chase Briscoe, who finished 3rd place at Charlotte, and I'm going to go with Chase Briscoe once again, which is going to be a very bold pick for Nashville because he has been downright abysmal at Nashville in his Cup career. Just how bad? He has a career best 21st place finish at this track in the Cup Series with a 29.3 average finish. So definitely not numbers you want to go towards if you want to place money on a driver. But 3rd place at Charlotte last week was his season best effort. He's now riding back-to-back top 5s, and he's now finished inside the top 10 6 times this season. 5 of those top 10s were top 5s. So if he's getting top 10s, they're usually going to be top 5s. And I think similarly to what you said about William Byron's stats at Nashville, you can kind of throw them out the window for Chase Briscoe. He's now with, obviously, Joe Gibbs Racing, one of the strongest teams in the garage area. He's had speed all season. It's been a matter of putting it together. And I think you're finally seeing the 19 crew put that speed together, get the results they kind of deserve, and riding back-to-back top 5s into this track should bode very well for Chase Briscoe this weekend.
You like Chase Briscoe. I like the other Chase a little better this week. I'm seeing some things I'm starting to like out of Chase Elliott, and he's my favorite sleeper this week. We talked about this a lot with Chase Elliott, who's plus 2,000 for the race win. I feel like we're starting to see the improvements I was hoping for. Like, we're starting to see top 5 speed, which we weren't really even seeing from Chase Elliott before. He finished 6th at Charlotte, and I just felt like every time I looked up, he was right there. He was right there running like fringe top 5, like didn't quite have the speed of William Byron or Denny Hamlin or Ross Chastain. But I do like the way that this team is trending right now. And here's why. Coming off of the 6th place last week, that was his 7th top 10. We don't have to go too much into the fact he's got a high floor, an 11.2 average finish, which is the 2nd best in the sport right now this season. And when I think of Nashville, Chase Elliott's one of the guys I think of because he won the first next-gen race at this track. In his one other start, he finished 4th here, and he's had laps led in all but one start at this race. And he finished 18th last year, didn't qualify, of course, 2021 when he was going through the injury. 15.5 average finish at this track for Chase Elliott. So the results, it's kind of like what I was talking about before with William Byron. Like, they're either very high or very low. I think that this is a team and driver that are trending in the right direction 100% right now. And I just think that, like, I really believe it. I believe in them. I believe in the driver. I believe in the team. How could you not believe in the speed? Like, you're seeing what William Byron and Kyle Larson are doing every single week. And I think that this is one of the tracks, like looking at the schedule ahead, that Chase Elliott and the 9 team probably have circled as, we can go out there and potentially put up a really good result, lead some laps, and try to win this race. And I know they want to say that every week, but like, you're going to Nashville, track you've won at before. And obviously the speed is trending upwards. So I like where they're at right now, plus 2,000 for the race win. Chase Elliott, I'll buy him a little bit over Chase Briscoe, as Vegas have them pretty close here. What's in the red solo cup, by the way, Cole? I saw you drinking from a solo cup.
Some Pepsi and some Jack.
Jack and Pepsi.
I don't know if I can say that on air, but cheers. It's a late night recording. I'm getting back from Mission Impossible. I'm feeling pretty pumped up, so I just had to get something to get me going through this episode. But I wanted to add something really quickly. I make the outlines, obviously, and I'm realizing now that I gave you these 2 same drivers for sleepers that you had last week. I gave my gut call intuition pick in Chase Briscoe. I'm not going to say who I put on the outline in case you don't want to mention him. Do you have a different driver that you want to go with that your gut's kind of speaking to you about for a sleeper, as opposed to the one that I did mention? If not, you can go with this, but I just want to give you the floor if you had a certain driver that you wanted to maybe deviate towards.
Well, I mean, I'll go with what you said, but I do like, if there's one driver I'm kind of thinking of that we haven't discussed, it's got to be Tyler Reddick. I just like what we're seeing from Tyler Reddick. Like, coming off of the result at Charlotte, like, that team hasn't been where we would have wanted them to be for a lot of the season, 23-11. But Tyler Reddick is where in the odds? He is probably in the top 10, right? So he's plus 900. He's right outside the top 5.
Mm-hmm.
I like Tyler Reddick this week for Nashville, but the name you had on here for me is Joey Logano, who's plus 2,000 for the race win. He had, a tough performance at Charlotte, 16th, 17th after starting 16th, and he won the last race at Nashville. So that's what I'm banking into for Joey Logano. That I like that you pinpointed on here. The fact that he's also got top 10s in 3 of his last 4 starts to this track, finished 19th, but has an average finish inside the top 10 at Nashville. I think that's a good one. Obviously, he's, again, proven he can win this year, but I think we're going to start to see that part of the season where guys like Tyler Reddick got to turn it up. Like, and that's why I like Chase Elliott this week too. Like, doesn't have a win yet this year. Tyler Reddick got to kick things into gear. Like, this is a guy that a lot of people were picking as a championship contender, and rightfully so entering the season. And we've seen him flex those muscles. We've seen him run top 3, top 5. We've seen him lead some laps here and there. But this is the kind of track for Tyler Reddick where you just kind of think about him ripping the high line, like these types of ovals that play into his skill set. He's not inside the top 5 in odds, but like you were talking about with Christopher Bell, who's just inside the top 5, I kind of like Tyler Reddick as a little bit of a sleeper value here, just outside of those names that we mentioned that are, top 5 per Vegas.
Very nice. Yeah, I would definitely agree with all of your drivers that you mentioned there. Tyler Reddick especially. I mean, the speed's been there. It's clear as day. Had a top 3 car in that at Charlotte and then wrecked like literally with, I think, maybe 30 to go right in front of William Byron as he was leading. And yeah, Chase Elliott definitely trending in the right direction. I love what I've seen from this team, and I think you're 1,000% right in saying that it's going to be time for these drivers who have had top 10 speed, contending for top 5s, to really step it up and make their mark on the season to show they're going to be contenders for the playoffs once they roll around here. Because now we're halfway through the regular season. It's put up or shut up time for a lot of these drivers and teams.
I want to move on to value picks, Cole. And, I mentioned last week, and you mentioned at the top of the show, Carson Hocevar was not part of our 12 drivers discussed, but he was like my gut call at the end of the episode. Again, just going off like the confidence I had in him, what we'd seen from him this year. He's a guy that's not on a lot of these outlines only because there's not a lot of results to go off of. Like, we like to build these based off of what the trends are and what we've seen from a driver at a specific track, but there's not a ton to go off of with Carson Hocevar other than the eye test, and the eye test is really good. So I want to choose him actually as one of our 12 drivers this week because Hocevar is plus 5,000 for the race win. He's had top 5 speed certain times this year. Like, we saw him contend for the win at Talladega. He had a top 5 car before some tough luck in the 600. Like, I really truly believe the way that race played out, the way that William Byron was catchable for Ross Chastain in stage 4, if Ross Chastain, if Carson Hocevar didn't have the troubles that he did late in the race, I feel like he would have 100% been in the mix for his first Cup Series win. And again, lies on the confidence in the driver, but coming off of probably one of his most consistent drives of his career, he went from running in last basically to running top 5 the entire race, and we've seen it time and time again. But for Carson Hocevar, here's why like he wouldn't have previously been on the outline. He's only had one other start in the Cup Series at Nashville. He finished 16th, but here's the other thing. When we have somebody like Kosovar on this outline, it's usually because they had some success in the lower levels of the series. So he was a winner here in the Truck Series. He also had a third place finish here. So not only is Carson Hocevar having a hell of a year, you're just looking at what he's done at this track, at the opportunities he's had here. And he's a guy that I have the utmost confidence in, plus 5,000 for the race win. He's one of those guys that could win a race this year. And you're going to be looking at yourself and kicking yourself if you didn't try to sprinkle on those plus 5,000 odds, because he's certainly a guy that entering the season, I didn't think had a shot at winning a race. But now we go any track, Nashville included, and he's definitely on my radar.
Mm-hmm.
And first couple stages of the Coke 600 as well, we saw a pretty strong start to the day for Noah Gragson, who is plus 10,000 for the race win. And Noah Gragson, you and I have talked about him a lot. Like, we have a lot of confidence in Noah. We've liked the way his career has kind of evolved over the years. The speed's been there with that car from time to time. And he's coming off a top 10. He's had 2 top 10s, 3 top 15s over 4 starts entering this race. So he is one of the hotter drivers entering this race. And last year finished 10th at Nashville. Also had a 5th place finish here in the Xfinity Series. So Noah Gragson, I feel like, has had an underwhelming start to the season, but you're starting to see him come out of the abyss. Like, that team has had really good speed this year from time to time. And obviously for him, the speed's been there the last 4 races. So track he's had some success at, plus 10,000. Like, you're looking at Noah Gragson as a guy like thinking ahead to big money bets, a top 10 maybe for Noah Gragson after he finished 10th last week. Kind of like the sound of that for this week. So I like 2 of the young up-and-comers as my value picks of the week. That's Carson Hocevar and Noah Gragson.
Yeah, those are 2 great picks. Like you said, Carson Hocevar, I think, is going to have an outside chance to win almost every track that we go to, because he's proven he has speed every track, basically. He's had top 5 speed on numerous occasions, and why not? We've seen guys like Josh Berry win this season, so why not Carson Hocevar? And Noah Gragson, those last 4 starts, that's very damning information right there. I mean, 2 top 10, 3 top 15s, that's a great start in the right direction to build towards more top 10s, more top 15s. So you like the momentum aspect of that for Noah Gragson, a very temperamental driver as well. You went with the youth. I'm going to go with a bit of experience for my 2 drivers as value picks, beginning with our perennial value pick in Ryan Preece. Ryan Preece plus 5,000 for the race win, like Carson Hocevar. Finished 9th at Charlotte, which marked back-to-back top 10s this season for him. He also finished 4th in his last Nashville start, and he 16th in the other start that he finished here. So he has had speed at this track in subpar equipment, and now he's with RFK Racing. He's clicking off top 10s. It seems like on a regular basis, or at least contending for top 10s on a regular basis every single week. So Ryan Preece is a very safe play, but he's a driver that I could definitely see walking away with yet another top 10 finish at Nashville. And then my, I guess, surprise pick for a value pick will be AJ Allmendinger, who is plus 12,500 for the race win. Very specific odds there for the race win. He finished 4th place at Charlotte, which marked his 4th top 10 this season. And by the way, he's actually 18th in the point standings right now, which is really, really commendable for that team in Kaulig Racing. They've had, I would say, top 10 speed on numerous occasions. They've at least contended for top 10s, I'd say, on a regular basis. And you look at his Nashville resume in the Cup Series, finished 10th here at one point and finished 11th in his last start with a 13.3 average in 3 starts in the Cup Series. So really solid numbers there on the Cup front. He also won here in the Xfinity Series in 2023. So talk about Carson Hocevar having that Truck Series win here. Well, AJ Allmendinger is also a winner at Nashville in the Developmental Series ranks. So I think you look at 4 drivers here, I think especially in regard to Preece, Allmendinger, and Hocevar, who have a great chance at scoring top 10s this weekend at Nashville.
I love the Ryan Priest pick. And AJ, like that's a long shot, but I think you sold it pretty well there. But just Ryan Priest is another guy. I feel like anytime we mention him, that those are the races when he's running like top 5 borderline and the top, definitely top 10. I think that this is a group of value picks I feel really good about between Priest, Allmendinger, Hocevar, and Gregson. So as we go through the rest of the outline, our sleepers: Ross Chastain, Chase Briscoe, Chase Elliott, Joey Logano, and a bonus pick of Tyler Reddick. Also, our favorites: Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, Denny Hamlin, William Byron. So let's dwindle this down to 6 here, Cole. One from each tier. I'll take William Byron as my favorite, take Chase Elliott as my sleeper, and I will take Carson Hocevar as my value pick of the week.
Nice. My favorite's going to be a redemption run from Kyle Larson. Sleeper is going to be obviously Ross the Boss Chastain. And then value pick, I'm going to go with Ryan Priest, our perennial value pick.
Of course. How could you not? I want to also look at Cole. Like, I feel like we covered the storylines entering this week pretty well because the Coke 600, we kind of covered the narrative entering this week at Nashville. Any loose change? Anybody we didn't cover that was maybe involved in the headlines? I feel like we did pretty good this week, but any names sticking out?
Yes. So we did mention
Oh, yes.
Joey Logano, who was a Team Penske driver, obviously. Going into the Indianapolis 500, you had those big penalties doled out to the Team Penske cars and the major firings of the higher ups on the IndyCar side of things for Team Penske due to these penalties. And it's because Team Penske, specifically in IndyCar, has a reputation for cheating, and they've been caught numerous times as well in NASCAR. You think back to the Joey Logano glove gate at the speedways last year.
If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
Exactly. But my thing is, we talked about leading into Indy. Like, do you think that that'll impact the NASCAR side of things? I'm
Fair.
starting to think that it will because look, Roger Penske, one of the most respected figures in motorsports. I mean, in the world, business, you name it. He is just a genius, a national treasure, I would say. And I feel like his reputation's kind of on the line because when you have these penalties like this and your reputations that your teams are cheating all the time in every series, like that's a blemish on your name and your brand. And I feel like obviously, like you said, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. It's a thing in all sports, all pro sports. Everyone cheats. It's a matter of who gets caught and who doesn't. And I feel like these teams in NASCAR, even they may not be pushing the boundaries as much because they don't want to get caught and slander that Penske name. And I think we saw maybe the lingering effects of that, or at the start of the effects of that last week in the 600, because I mean, Logano had great numbers at Charlotte. He started 16th, finished 17th. Like, he didn't really have a presence in that race. Cindric did not have a presence in that race at all. And even Ryan Blaney, I feel like he was the better running of the 3 Penske Fords, but what was he, like a backmarker top 10 before he got into that crash? So I think, at least for the time being, over the last maybe or over the next maybe 5-ish races, you're going to see a little bit of a slog from that Penske stable. And maybe that's just me reading too much into it from the performances last week. But I really do think that you might see a little bit of cautious on-track stuff from the Penske drivers and the teams.
That's a really good point. I mean, I honestly didn't really put 2 and 2 together thinking about it during the race, but now that you kind of connect the dots, I wouldn't be shocked at all. And so it makes me more intrigued to watch those cars and maybe stay away from them this week. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. Cole, looking at big money bets, I did mention a couple that I might like top 5s, top 10s. These are our favorite prop bets of the week. And looking at our value picks and even a few of our sleepers, I feel like that's where there's pretty decent value on the top 10 bets this week. Like I mentioned, the idea of Noah Gragson at plus 350. I don't know if I'm willing to call that a big money bet. Like, I'm not going to put 5 units on that, but like, I feel pretty good about Noah Gragson to finish in the top 10 at plus 350. Carson Hocevar at plus 130 makes me feel pretty good. Even Ryan Priest at plus 150 is very solid. So I feel like for me, there's definitely some juice to be made there. But then even like top 5s, we were talking about Chase Elliott, Chase Briscoe, they're both over even money. I feel like those are 2 names that capture my attention for top 5s. However, like, what did I just say about Chase Elliott? Top 5 speed hasn't really been there. It's trending that way. I don't know if I'd be willing to put big money on him this week, but That definitely piques my interest. There's a few like that where even like Ross Chastain plus 150. So that's kind of where my mind is heading with these. But do you have any that you feel pretty strongly about?
Yeah, first off, to recap last week, if you did lose money on Kyle Larson, hopefully you made that back and then some with our emphatic William Byron top five prop. I was very, very vocal on the fact that that was a lock and a guarantee money. He was plus 105 to finish top five, finish runner up. That hit. For this week, though, you hit on two that I like a lot. Uh, both plus 150 payouts. That's going to be Ross Chastain to finish top five, who's finished top five in three of his four starts, and Ryan Preece to finish top 10 at plus 150. A guy who finished top 10 last week, has had top 10 speed all season, and finished fourth year last year. So those would be my two big money bets this week. Ryan Preece top 10, Ross Chastain top five.
Yeah, so we're consensus there, and that's good because, like you said, William Byron was the bet that we were strong about last week. We're able to make some money off that for a lot of the listeners who tuned in and listened, and almost really banked out with the winner bet too. But thinking about those two, Chastain top five, Priest top 10, we both mentioned those two, so that's definitely something you should keep your eye on this week and probably put multiple units on as well. So, what about over unders, Cole? These are our better or worses. Last week, we had William Byron over 7.5. We had Chase Elliott over 8.5. So the Hendrick Chevys helped us out quite a bit at the Coke 600. And this upcoming week, it's a lot of the same suspects that we've been talking a lot about this episode that look good on Grid Rival for the better or worse picks.
Yeah, so the three that I'm really keen on, definitely Ryan Preece, better than 14.5, so 14th or
For
better.
sure.
A driver that's finished, I feel like, top 15 every single race this season, barring any catastrophe. That should be a lock. Ross Chastain, 8.5 or better, so eighth or better. That seems like it should be a lock as well, coming off that win, going into one of his best tracks, arguably his best track on the circuit next to Coda. And then Christopher Bell, 6.5 or better, so sixth or better. I feel really strongly that 20 team is going to have a great run this weekend. And then one more bonus. It's tough for me to advocate for anything that's like fifth, better or worse. But I think in the case of Kyle Larson, his prop is fourth. So I picked fourth or better, just because going based off the stats I mentioned earlier, whenever he's had a down race, he's come out and finished third or better, including a win at that in those three starts where he did come back from a 20th or worse finish. So I think that team they've been the best all season, plain and simple. And it's been one of his best tracks on the circuit. Again, the only driver to finish top 10 in all four starts. He has the win here. So I like Kyle Larson fourth or better. But given that very slim margin for error, say Bell, Chastain, and Priest's props to finish better than are the ones I would definitely gravitate towards.
Yeah, I would agree. I love the pattern idea of the Kyle Larson over 4, but just it's so difficult to do that, and especially like when we are talking up how good the possibilities of like Denny Hamlin, William Byron, Christopher Bell, Ross Chastain to be in the top 3, like that's a lot to compete with. So I'm staying away from that, but I'm definitely monitoring it this week because you mentioned that trend, and it's like you want to be able to capitalize on that when people are saying, after he finished almost dead last, like, be cool to be able to make some money off him the next week. So
Mhm.
head-to-head driver matchups here, Cole. We've talked a lot about Ryan Preece. We've talked a lot about Ross Chastain. I think there's some money to be made on those two drivers because we mentioned both of them for big money bets. We mentioned both of them for better or worse picks. And as we go to head-to-head driver parlays, I feel like there's money to be made on those two guys here as well.
Yep, those were the two matchups I had circled this week. The Chastain Logano one, it's Chastain to finish 2.5, so 3 spots better than Joey Logano. And I like this one a lot. Speaking on the Team Penske ripple effect I mentioned during Loose Change, and just the overall inconsistencies from Joey Logano and that 22 bunch this season, seems like a really good bet to make. In addition to the fact that Ross Chastain is coming off the win, going into one of his best tracks on the circuit. I like that one a lot. And yeah, so the Ryan Preece prop is Ryan Preece to finish within 2.5 spots, so within 3 spots of Alex Bowman. And that is one that I'm a big fan of, and it might turn people away because obviously Alex Bowman's in Hendrick equipment. He's started off the year really well, but as of late, he's been very inconsistent. Also, his best finish at Nashville is 14th, coming off a 29th place outing at Charlotte. So I think one thing that we have seen is that, like Kyle Larson, whenever Bowman has had a bad outing, he's usually come back and finished inside the top 10. But I feel equally as good that Ryan Preece will finish inside the top 10 or right around there. And seeing as Bowman has not finished better than 14th at Nashville, that seems like a really good and smart bet to make.
Yeah, I like that one a lot. So you can also parlay those with the better or worse. So you could hypothetically, if you're on Grid Rival and you can bet on Grid Rival on your state, you could parlay Ross Chastain to finish better than 8.5 and Ross Chastain to finish 3 spots in front of Joey Logano. And you can parlay Ryan Preece to finish within 2 spots of Alex Bowman with over 14.5, meaning better than 14.5. And you can bet on their top 5 and top 10 bets there. So if you're trying to put all your eggs into 1 or 2 baskets and you feel confidently about those 2 drivers like we do, I think that there's definitely some money to be made on that front with Ross Chastain, Ryan Preece, who are 2 guys that are certainly on the radar for daily fantasy this week. Cole, Glasses Cole. What do you think about our fantasy lineup this week?
Glass is cool. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, genius.
4 eyes. Yeah. This is I'm pretty content with this lineup. So the back end is going to be AJ Allmendinger, Ryan Preece, and Carson Hocevar, who I feel really good about this weekend as far as value picks are concerned. Mentioned the fact that Dinger's won here in the Xfinity Series. He has top 10 here in the Cup Series as well. 13.3 average is really, really commendable. And given their speed this season, I think that's a really good driver to back end this thing. Ryan Preece, don't got to speak much more on him and his top 10 pace all year. Same thing with Carson Hocevar. I guess the only apprehension would be that he's had trouble finishing these things off, even though he has had really good speed. And then from there, I guess one apprehension that people may have is having Chase Briscoe in this lineup because, again, 29.3 average, best finish 21st is really nothing to write home about at all. But I'm going based off the eye test, going based off recency, back-to-back top 5s going into this race weekend. He's with Joe Gibbs Racing. Throw those stats out the window. I have him as our 3rd most expensive driver. And then you got Chase Elliott and Ross Chastain as your ace. Again, I think we both unanimously feel that Ross Chastain is going to have a really strong weekend, again, coming off that Coke 600 win. And Chase Elliott is trending in the right direction. Also, one of the drivers to think about when you come to Nashville. So, once again, we got Ross Chastain, Chase Elliott, Chase Briscoe, Carson Hocevar, Ryan Preece, and AJ Allmendinger.
Yeah, I'm with you. I feel content. I feel pretty good. You know, like there's certain guys I'd probably rather not like depend on, like Chase Elliott and Chase Briscoe.
Mm-hmm.
However, we do feel good about them. It's tough to depend on those guys, but it's what I'm intrigued by. So we'll see how it goes this week for that DFS lineup. Let's put our money where our mouth this year, Cole. Let's discuss our winner picks. I picked William Byron last week, I believe. So I had first pick. I had the best pick. Obviously, it wasn't Ross Chastain, but I picked the guy that dominated the race. So you got first dibs today. Who are you picking to win the Cracker Barrel 400? Great race name.
It is a great race name. Great logo, too.
Yes, great logo.
I'm kind of torn here. Looking at the last 4 races here at Nashville, you've had 3 Chevys win, 1 Ford. I'm going to go with the Toyota this weekend. I'm going to go with Christopher Bell. I love what I've seen from this team as of late. Again, 3 straight top 10s. Got a runner-up in there as well. He's had really good speed at Nashville in the Cup Series since they've been going there. So, I mean, Christopher Bell.
You know what? I'm going to go with the same stable. Give me Denny Hamlin this week. Everyone's talking about, even we're talking about, what a heartbreaker it was for William Byron. Well, man, if you think Denny Hamlin wasn't the most pissed off guy in the field after losing the race last week, even over William Byron, you'd be 100% wrong. I think Denny Hamlin is going to come back with a vengeance once again, and you gave every reason as to why, in addition to what I said about him, that I think there's reason to believe in the Joe Gibbs Toyotas this week. And like you said, there's been mostly Chevys taking the checkered flag here, and I think that kind of that sweeps up the headline. But I think it would be novice of us to not think about these Toyotas as having a really good chance to win this week.
Mm-hmm.
And especially coming off of a bow tie win last week with Ross Chastain, the dominant bow tie performance from William Byron. Anyway, give me Denny Hamlin this week. And Perk your ears up. I'm saying Ryan Preece for my sleeper pick this week. I'm looking at outside the top 15 odds on DraftKings.
On DraftKings, okay.
DraftKings.
I
That's
mean,
what I have open right now.
it still stands because BetMGM, he's actually, I believe, 18th shortest odds.
And
for
he
the
is
so.
the same on DraftKings. So,
Okay.
yeah, I think so. I might have to fact check this, but I think every time I've picked Ryan Preece as my sleeper, I think he's finished in the top 5. So I did it at
Oh, wow.
Vegas. I did it at, let me see this. Pick your sleeper. I'm going to fact check this. I'm going to see which races he finished top 5 in.
Yeah, I'll go with my other veteran value pick from my analysis with AJ Allmendinger. Again, finished top 10 past week at Charlotte. He's had top 10 speed on numerous occasions this season, and he's got a win here in the Xfinity Series. Just been a really solid year for that stable. Go with AJ Allmendinger.
Pretty outside the box there. I like that. All right. I just pulled up the stats for Ryan Preece this year, and I'm seeing that his start position, but I'm not seeing his finishing position.
On
Come on,
Racing Reference?
Yeah, on Racing Reference. What do we do in Racing Reference?
How in the world is that? That makes
I have no idea. I don't know. All right. Well, we'll get you that at a later date. I mean, I wish I could screen share with you right now. I literally just see his start, and that's it.
There's no way that's possible. Here, hold on. I have the Racing Reference up right now. Let's see if it's the same deal for me here.
Wait a minute. Wait, I found it. I found it.
There you go.
Okay. So Las Vegas.
Dumbass.
What?
Dumbass.
I know. I deserve that. I think so. I clicked on the year instead of the number of races he's competed in this year. That's why. All right. It's also 1:00 in the morning where I am right now. He finished third at Vegas. I picked him as my sleeper there. Okay, and I picked him at Homestead the next week, and he finished in 9th, but that was another race where he ran extremely well. And I picked him at Kansas. He finished 7th. So every time I picked Ryan Preece, he's finished in the top 10, and he's run in the top 5 all 3 of those races. So basically, I'm picking him again this week.
Yeah, so basically hammer that big money bet of Ryan Preece plus 150 to finish top 10.
Josh mother effing Weinstein.
Yes,
that's what I like to call him. Because he looks like Josh Weinstein from Entourage. So that's what I like to call him.
It's uncanny. It really is uncanny.
It is. We'll do a side-by-side on the Money Stop Twitter this year.
I love that. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, well, triad. Yeah. Hopefully if you're an Entourage fan, hopefully you're also a Money Stop fan. So we got AJ Allmendinger. We got Ryan Preece as our sleepers this week. And we've got a couple Joe Gibbs Toyotas, Denny Hamlin and Christopher Bell as we put our money where our mouth is this week. That's who me and Cole are picking to win the Cracker Barrel 400, Cole. Departing words before we drop the jack here?
Man, should be a good race. It's actually going to be a night race, so I'm pumped up about that. I think Nashville's a great track. That concrete surface chews up the tires, makes for some great racing. And I think we got a good episode lined up here, you know? I feel great about our analysis. I like that we're going bold against the Chevrolets, picking some JGR Toyotas. So, yeah, I'm really pumped up.
No, we failed to mention, we talk sometimes about our personal lives on the Money Stop. We're the Cusumano brothers. We have a Cusumano sister or two, but this race will take place on Katiri's birthday, our younger sister Katiri, June 1st. Who would Katiri want to win this race? Ryan Blaney, maybe?
Well, Katiri is a Ross Chastain fan.
Oh, that's right.
So she would want Ross Chastain.
Melon Man. Okay.
Yeah.
So that might be more incentive to pick the Melon Man. So this is a June 1st Sunday night race. I love a Sunday night race, 7:00.
Yep.
I loved watching that last week, especially because I usually have off Mondays now.
You know what? If that June 1st, summer vibes, Ross Chastain winning the Coke 600, that's the
watermelon
start of summer. So it's the season.
I mean, realistically, Memorial Day weekend is the unofficial start of summer. So he won that race. It's only fitting he went on June 1st too, right?
Yeah.
All right. So we're picking Toyotas, but we're also kind of agreeing that Ross Chastain might also win the race in honor of Katiri.
Yes.
All right. Yep. We'll see. It's going to be 7:00. The Cracker Barrel 400. We'll see you there. We won't be there, but we'll see you on the airwaves of the Money Stop. We'll also see you on social media at _Money Stop. Everyone tuning in, Speed Freaks, our entire audience that watches and listens to every episode. We thank you so much. We hope you've been able to bank out with us in what's been a very successful season to date. We're a third the way through. Long way to go, but this episode of the Money Stop is over. We'll drop the jack. For Cole, I'm Steven. We'll see you guys next time.